Hi everyone, thanks for the left turn for today, Sunday, December 4th, 2016. I'm George Ferrara. Welcome back to the Jack's Left channel. Welcome back to our continuing series here on the Jack's Left channel. It's called Who Runs Jacksonville? I have been focused for quite a while on who really runs Jacksonville. And we've talked about the different people and organizations that have their way in the city, and that run various aspects of our lives. We're just, at least I speak for myself, of course, but I really am just a citizen of Jacksonville. But there's a lot that goes on, and I have decided also within this series, to start focusing on the corporate media. And when I start looking at the corporate media, the local corporate media, of course, the first place I'm going to go to is our historic Florida Times-Union. Now, Florida Times-Union, of course, that iteration of newspapering here in Jacksonville came from the merger on February 4th, 1883 of the Florida Daily Times and the Florida Union. So February 4th, 1883, the first masthead, the Florida Times-Union. Okay, this is their building in the 1880s in downtown Jacksonville. Now, here, this building, built in the 1960s, is the current headquarters of the Florida Times-Union. As many of you who have been following here on the Jack's Left channel and have been watching the series have been looking at I have been looking at our local corporate media specific to the Times-Union. And I have, in 2 prior episodes, looked at the way they interact with the city. But there's some big things that happen, and they happen sometimes once a decade. And the Florida Times-Union has a way of being very much a boosterist, very much a gathering point of people to really, I think, to shape opinion. Now, we look here in the 1960s announcing the consolidation of the city of Jacksonville and Duval County, with the exceptions of Baldwin and the beaches. Okay, so flash forward from the late 60s to 1976, and political columnist Joe Klein, who observed in Rolling Stone, "The entire political establishment in Jacksonville consists of a small group of businessmen who have grown rich together since World War II. At its center is the Florida Publishing Company, a subsidiary of the Seaboard Coastline Industries, which produces the only 2 newspapers in town, now 1 newspaper run by Morse Communications. The primary function of the paper is apparently to tell the rest of the community how wonderful Jacksonville and the businessmen are." So we'll keep coming back to this common theme. In the early 1970s, it was offshore power systems. There was this crazy idea that these 2 companies, Westinghouse and Tenneco, had, and they had this idea of putting floating nuclear power platforms out into the ocean off the coast of Florida. And so there's a lot of focus, a lot of talk, a lot of emphasis possibly on this happening in Jacksonville. Now, it did not happen, and later on in the 1980s, things changed anyway, because the Florida Times-Union was bought out by a family-owned company called Morse Communications. And I talked about this last episode, so I'm not really going to go really heavy into it, other than to tell you that the destiny of this newspaper is wrapped up in a company that's owned in Augusta, Georgia. And so you have to kind of, at this point in 1983, when this buyout occurs, we have to start looking differently at this newspaper, even more so than we did in the past. Now, in the early 1990s, there was a big bond issue, millions and millions of dollars. It's called Jacksonville River City Renaissance. And I remember it was something that was really boosted, really talked about, of all the goodies and all the things that the city was going to have. The buy-up of the old St. James building, where the old May Cohen's was, the old Cohen Brothers department store, making that into City Hall. And then, of course, all of this going on, all these improvements, La Villa and all of that, the attempt to do that. And then, of course, the Jaguars come along. The Jaguars, some funding from the River City Renaissance goes to what we used to call the Gator Bowl. Some of us still do, but now known as Everbank Field. So, all this money and all of these ideas and thoughts, and I think the Times Union has a role in getting the players together, getting the ideas together, getting the community on board. And so I have to ask you, what's next? Now, I'll be moving on to other spheres of corporate media influence in the city of Jacksonville, and of course, when we're talking about these big markets, uh, these big organizations, I mean, they span across, not just, of course, they're not confined to Duval County. They have spillover effect in Clay, Nassau. They have their own businesses and all of that. So we have all these things going on. Now, of course, I do want to let you know, coming up here on the Jack's Lift channel, I have at least 2 episodes coming to you of History Jacksonville. I was just out at Stockton Park back on November 27th. So I was filming. So a lot of great things are ahead. The best is yet to come. I want to thank you for watching. Take it easy. See you later. Thanks for making the left turn.